Welcome to Horror Happens TV here on Jefferson Highlights. Thank you for being a part of it. We're here monthly talking with some of the best filmmakers, actors, writers, all the different dark corners in the world of horror here on Jefferson Highlights. And you can find out more information about it at horrorhappens.com. On the TV show this month, we're going to be talking with David Sann, an expert when it comes to Japanese, Asian horror, film, and animation. So it's going to be a fun program. Real quick before we get to David in just a couple minutes, wanted to thank everyone for coming out to the Horror Happens Film Showcase as we brought the stories of the undead to you. A big thank you to the filmmakers who were a part of it, including Jeremy Gardner of The Battery, Chris Ellenstein of The Soulless, Rodrigo Guadino of Rue Morgue Magazine for the facts in the case of Mr. Hollow, a particular favorite of the Film Fest, as well as John I. Was and Sann for Zombie Casserole. We're going to be having our next one coming up. It's going to be on Valentine's Day, Saturday, February 14th, and it's going to feature and celebrate women in horror with a wide variety of filmmakers from around the world, including Mexico, Canada, the United States, and more. Short films, 2 feature films including, and we're very proud to announce this here on Horror Happens TV with me, JK, Nobody Can Cool by DPYX, the combo that brings a very tense thriller starring Nick Principe of Laid to Rest. More information about that, go to horrorhappens.com and also on Twitter at horrorhappensff. And if you want to find out more about the Horror Happens radio show, which is heard weekly on Homegrown Radio at hgrnj.org every Tuesday at 4 p.m., go to horrorhappens.com and also on Twitter at horrorhappensrs. We'll be back with David Sann here on Horror Happens TV, only here in Jefferson Highlights, in just a few minutes, talking about the aspect of Asian cinema and animation in today's market, as well as some recommendations and his future here on Horror Happens TV. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be right back here on Jefferson Highlights. We're back here on Horror Happens TV on Jefferson Highlights, and we thank you so much for being a part of it. A quick reminder also, before we have David Sann on the show, to check out horrorhappens.com, not only for the Horror Happens Film Showcase, which next will be playing Saturday, February 14th. It's going to be, as they say, a Valentine's Day massacre, with some of the best celebration of women's horror out there from around the globe. Short films, feature films, you never know what you're going to find at the Horror Happens Film Showcase. Go on Twitter also at HorrorHappensFF and check out more details about the up-and-coming event. Also, check out the Horror Happens radio show, which you can find out more information at horrorhappens.com. And I want to give a thanks to Diabolique Magazine for their support, not only with the Horror Happens radio show and productions, but Horror Happens TV. With that being said, I'd like to welcome in a guest to the show, David Sann. How are you, David?
Thank you for inviting me over here. It's really a pleasure.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. You bring something unique to the Horror Happens TV that really hasn't been done before. You know, there is a lot of critics on the show, a lot of journalists, a lot of writers that come across great shows like this, both on the internet, on TV. And we're very lucky to be able to have that content and those kind of people. You have an eye for Asian cinema and animation and TV. And you're going to be joining Horror Happens TV as a contributor now. And it's very exciting because
I'm excited.
Well, I was going to say, I myself am a huge fan of Asian cinema. The Horror Happens radio show, we talk a lot about it. We have our 3-term Asian reviews every other week on the show. And you've been so ingrained with it for so long. You're going to be doing a review of a particular project, whether animation or film. We're going to be talking a little bit about it, and it's a new addition to programming. It's very exciting. How'd you get into it?
I remember when I was little and watching HBO, you know, late at night.
Yeah.
And it was Akira.
Oh,
I had
wow.
to I had to watch it at least a couple times before I understood actually what it was all about. Because the first time you see it, you're like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
And then by the second or third time, you're like, wow, this is awesome. And then after that, I saw Armitage the Third, which is basically robots in space,
Yeah.
but the people on Earth are trying to colonize Mars.
Wow. And this is all animation, correct?
Yes, this is all animation. In the 80s and 90s, you had a lot of like the blood and guts, sort of.
Yeah.
Now, as you're getting towards more of the 2000s, you're seeing a lot of Mo animation, which is basically cutesy girls and
Yeah. Like Hello Kitty, stuff like Sailor Moon, stuff like that.
yeah. You're seeing the re-emergence actually of Sailor Moon, because for a while she was only on Cartoon Network on a little block called Toonami.
Oh my! I remember that. I remember growing up with that. Wow.
And you're seeing shows like Big O come back now, and actually Shout or Right Stuff is actually going to be doing a special box set for Big O.
That's fantastic. I see. There's a lot to take in with the Asian, the animation and film aspect, because really the markets have a very distinctive style that goes along with it. And we're going to be talking today a little bit about Battle Royale, which is celebrating 15 years this year, and for the film, 15 years for the film. But it's one of many titles out there. Again, we talk on the Horror Happens radio show, but we're going to be talking in here ones that we can recommend to you, the fans out there, ones that we can go ahead and safely say you will enjoy this, even if you have to watch it a couple times. Let's start with that. Battle Royale. You have 3 different segments of it. You have the book, you have the, I guess, in the States here, the graphic novel, and then the film. Talk a little bit about them.
Well, the book basically began in 1999 when it was published.
Yeah.
And then it grew into a movie, and then they also did a manga version, or Japanese comic book. And the manga basically is a little bit more sensationalized because it has a little bit more TNA and a little bit more violence. One of the characters, Nariko, basically in the movie, she is a student of the teacher who's actually doing the program. Because that's,
if I may ask, just for the fans out there, talk a little bit about that program, because it's a very controversial topic, especially nowadays with the way films are. It's more, in the States, I would think it'd be more of an independent film rather than the mainstream. What is Battle Royale surrounded by?
Battle Royale, when it starts out, there's such a high level of unemployment. Japan has basically closed their borders once again.
Yeah.
And has been going inside to actually produce more monetary and more their style of thinking.
Wow. Okay.
But the parents are starting to get scared of their kids and feel that the kids aren't learning respect.
Absolutely.
So parents and adults gather together and basically vote on this program. It's called the program.
Yeah.
It's the Battle Royale program. And they basically, like a lottery almost, choose a class, and that class has to fight to the last person standing.
Wow, so it's do or die, really, kind of, when it comes to it.
They all have bombs strapped to their necks.
Okay.
So they're all running around this, like, either field or... The last program was held at, like, this building.
Yeah. Is on a remote island as it is in the film?
In both the manga, the film, and the book, basically it's held on an island. But the film, the pacing has to be, like, a little bit quicker because you can't show like every death. You have to
You have to
crunch it
imply.
in.
You have to imply with that, and that's one of the things. I mean, we talk about 15 years of Battle Royale, David. I'm here with David Sann. When you talk about that aspect of it, you see that the film really has received a lot of critical praise and just got a Blu-ray re-release this past year, and that says something for a film that's very controversial. And unfortunately, I know you're going to give like a little bit of a sour face in this, but films like The Hunger Games is loosely based on what you see with Battle Royale.
Well, the author of The Hunger Games was actually influenced by the book.
Yeah.
And she went to her editor and said, should I have these types of elements in my book?
Yeah.
And she was like, no, I don't want that style in your book.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting to see how something from Japan has influenced, a writer over here.
Very much, yeah.
Well, and then it's the same thing in anime. Why a lot of questions is, why do a lot of characters have those big eyes?
Yeah.
And it was Japanese people coming over here and seeing Mickey Mouse.
Interesting. So it's a lot of cross-cultural. A lot of phenomenon through generations of cinema and pop culture that really is influenced. And one of the things we talked about before was the aspect that it's really kind of like a 2-year window from the show. You see a lot of the Asian animation film coming over to the States, and you have companies like Palisades Tyrodin Extreme, which is now Kino Lorber, and you also have Tokyo Shock, companies like that, who are getting these films a couple of years later, this animation a couple of years later, the Saturday morning on CW. You go ahead and you see like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that. That's 2 years ahead in Japan, or behind in Japan and China and all the markets there for the US.
There was actually an episode 0 for Yu-Gi-Oh!
Really?
Where there was a character introduced in episode 0, but then the character was just completely abandoned in episode 1.
Wow. Wow. One question I have for you, because I know you watch a lot of this, you're very ingrained into it.
Oh, yeah.
David, when you see the product from Asia coming over to the States, sometimes you'll see the original, but sometimes you also see the re-envisioning of it. Is there ever changes that are made for more of a U.S. audience versus an Asian audience?
Well, what they have to do sometimes with a lot of the dubbing is centralize a lot of the speaking.
Yeah.
Or the slang terms. One good one is Ghost Stories, where originally the story was a very, very serious story.
Absolutely.
But the dub is just hilarious. It's just wacky over the top because the series was just a very serious series.
Wow. And you talk about Ghost Stories. The heritage of Asian horror, Asian animation is something of myth and lore. So even if you sit back and say, oh, I don't want to see that, it's a ghost story, or it's a revenge story, or some girl with long black hair is coming out of a well, like you see with films like The Ring or Ringu and Juno or The Grudge, it's coming from decades upon centuries of history within the Asian culture, whether China, Thailand, Japan, Korea, Philippines, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's this one called Uzumaki the Spiral.
Oh, wow.
Really good one. It starts out with this guy just staring at this washing machine going round and round. That's the opening scene.
Yeah.
And then it just goes from there. People start seeing spirals all over the place. They start turning into snails.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I watched a lot, David. No, I watched a lot, but I've never seen anything like that. It's very visual.
Everyone slowly, the whole town just starts going around in a spiral. They start building their buildings in a spiral.
Damn.
And then finally the whole town just gets sucked under. And then that's it.
Wow. And that's one of the...
Spoiler.
Spoiler.
Sorry.
That's the variety that comes with, though. You have everything from really grindhouse stuff like The Butcher to more psychological stuff like an Abnormal Beauty or an Audition to more scientific-based like Silk to more just revenge and brutality like an Old Boy. Or Ichi the Killer. Even there's comedy thrown in there. I mean, the Asian market is one where it has its own style, heavy with visuals, but also it's very cerebral at times when it comes to, and that's not anything to deter you, the fans, from watching these films because they're beautiful. And there's a lot to them, and you see a lot of influences, especially in the last decade, on U.S. cinema with remakes and re-envisionings. David Fincher, you look at Seven. Seven is a prime example of what Asian horror, that style is, that you see on the screen with Morgan Freeman and Brad. What's in the box? You know, stuff like that. You see a lot of that. Battle Royale is one of those films that now the CW has talked about adapting a series.
Yeah, and I'm just like, no.
It's a scary thing, but we live in a society where the teen audiences are picking up, but it's also kind of a hypocrisy because it's exactly what they're talking about with the teen audiences and their perspective on this. Battle Royale for you, what's your favorite one? The novel, the graphic novel, or the film?
I just got finished with the book. I absolutely fell in love with the book.
Why?
I love the book because things are fleshed out, but at the same time, you're getting to know the characters, getting to know what's inside their heads. I mean, yeah, the manga is good, but the manga sort of goes off from the original vision and just different tangent altogether.
Wow, it's unbelievable. I've read a majority of the book, and I bought it after seeing Battle Royale. I picked up the Blu-ray re-release, and it's available right now for you fans out there. I highly recommend it with all the extras.
I
and
remember
stuff like that.
when I first saw Battle Royale, and I heard whispers of it during 2000, and it was that one movie where you had this friend say, "Oh yeah, I heard about that."
It's one of those films that you had to drive, 4 towns over to be able to see that kind of film. It's very infamous also for what it does. And the truth of the matter is, its reputation grows a little bit larger than what it presents. It's a tremendous film, but I think it's like a folktale. You start adding on to it. People have different interpretations of it, and it makes for a very interesting film. And Battle Royale, for me, is on my list of my favorite Asian films. But there's so many more, and so many great directors that have come to the States. What's some of your favorites, David?
I like Takashi Miike.
He's fantastic.
I absolutely love him. He actually did a Western called Sukiyaki Western Django. And he had...
Can you say that again? It's a little bit slower.
Sorry. Well, when you say it, you have to say it really fast. Sukiyaki Western Django.
Wow.
And he had Quentin Tarantino, which is in it too. Quentin plays a old man telling the story of a Django-like character.
Wow. And that's very interesting because you see a lot of directors, and there's very few effective directors that go ahead and are able to bring that vision. I brought David Fincher. Quentin Tarantino with Kill Bill. Some people feel it does, some people feel it doesn't. But even in the mainstream cinema today, directors that are coming over from Asia to direct in the last 10 to 15 years, you have one of the films that I absolutely love this year, Rigor Mortis. Rigor Mortis, unbelievable. A lot of these directors in the last 5 years especially are really going through, like Magnet releasing, Palisades Tartan,
Shout Factory.
Shout Factory, which is another great one.
I absolutely love Shout Factory.
Shout Factory is great. And the Battery, which played at the Horror Happens Film Showcase, was Shout Factory.
Samurai Pizza Cats.
Love the names.
It's Samurai Pizza Cats is about these cats that work at a pizzeria, but they're also samurais.
Interesting. It's interesting also the perception of one culture to another and how the audience views it. Because there's a film called Suicide Club, which the opening 5-minute sequence, folks, it's as shocking and as disturbing as you are going to get when it comes to it. And it's one that really it stands
one
the
that
test
always,
of time. Not advised for everyone out there, so you know.
That one scene, when I first saw it, I was just like, nah, they're not going to do that.
And they did.
And I was just like, okay.
Yeah, and you can find any of these releases online. You can find them in the stores, your local store. Englishtown, New Jersey, big shout out to the Groovy Graveyard because that is a great place to go.
And Asbury Park.
And Asbury Park, where also they have the Groovy Graveyard and the showroom, which brings in a variety of this style of film every once in a while. Before we move forward, because you're going to be back every month now doing a review on an animation or a film, and we're very much looking forward to it here, David, and we thank you for being a part of this
I'm
team.
going to enjoy it.
You know what? I can see it with the gleam in your eye, and with these films, folks, you have to understand something. There is a lot that goes into these films, so when you see any sort of laughter or glee or thing, there's a ton that goes into it, and that's what makes this genre so great.
They
And
usually
why?
don't
Yeah.
have like that big of a budget. It's usually like a small budget.
And it shows
And
the quality.
During like, if you see scenes in like Tokyo or Shibuya,
Yeah.
they don't stop the streets. Those are real people.
Yeah, and it's thinking about that now, it's kind of scary. For me, Abnormal Beauty, The Pang Brothers, my all-time favorite horror film, not just Asian film, horror film. Silk, which is also on Palisades, Tartan, as well as Abnormal Beauty. Those are a couple. What's some ones you can recommend to the fans to see in lieu of what's going to be happening every month here on Horror Happens TV?
I gotta say, Battle Royale, top one. You got Ichi the Killer. You got Audition. You got
Yeah.
Battle.
You got Old Boy, too.
Old Boy.
The Revenge Trilogy.
Old Boy, Meatball Machine.
Now, one thing, if I may say, I think, David, you agree with me. When you
And
go
Tokyo
ahead...
Gore Police.
Oh, Tokyo Gore Police is a great film. When you look at the fact of these films, folks, understand that some of them are for a mature audience, some are not. But if you're looking into something that's different, different culture, different film style, this is some great content for you out there. We exercise that you'll use common sense when you watch them and know that there is a variety of different stuff, but know that it's well worth the time. And if you're a mature fan and you're a fan of film, check them out. And you can hear it every week on the Horror Happens radio show on a homegrown radio. You can hear it every week as we do these kind of reviews, whether we're doing a 3-term Asian film review or we're talking with guests about it, as well as Horror Happens TV with David Sann here. We look at it now, David, and real quick, because we're up against it with it. You talk about the Horror Happens film showcase. What was your experience with it, real quick, about it?
I just enjoy it because I started out with the Asian horror and then just went from there, and you introduced me into the indie horror, which I truly enjoy because it's people who have a caring and understanding about the genre and want to put this artwork out there.
Absolutely. I like how you put that artwork, because it really is, it's that vision, it's that art that people are coming to see and support. And people need to get out there and support it, because whether it's the Horror Happens Film Showcase or any results, you come out to a place like that, you're supporting artists who are putting their heart and soul into these projects. Any director, I give them props, because it's something that very few, a small percentage, can do around the world with it.
Oh, yeah. I'm always reminded of the one quote. It's actually a hacker quote. Art is not a mirror. Art is a hammer.
I love that. I love that. David Sann, we look forward to talking with you more about Asian film and animation.
Definitely.
And we'll catch you up next month with this. It's just going to be a knockout for it. And for you, the fans out there, don't forget, check out Horror Happens TV on YouTube. Go to horrorhappens.com, the film showcase, the Horror Happens radio show. There's so much for you out there. And again, thank you to everyone who came out to the Horror Happens film showcase this past month. Be a part of the next one, Saturday, February 14th, as we're going to be celebrating Women in Horror, which is a national movement, 6 years strong now. And we're going to be very lucky in February during our taping to have Hannah Neurotica out of Philly talking about it here on the show. So you're going to have a really big treat for those tuning in here on Cablevision. And just go out and support independent film, folks. It's a great medium, all the dark corners with it. And come back next time to be a part of the Horror Happens TV here on Jefferson Highlights. I want to thank you for being a part of it. Find us on Twitter at HorrorHappensRS, Facebook.com/HorrorHappensRS, and HorrorHappens.com. Thank you for being a part of Horror Happens TV on Jefferson Highlights. We'll see you next month with David Sann and Hannah Neurotica, and be a part of Women in Horror with the Horror Happens Film Showcase coming up Saturday, February 14th. Have a good day.